Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. Today for October I've got a different kind of video here. As you know from past videos on this channel, the Batman Arkham franchise are some of my favorite video games. So I thought it'd be fun to just kind of make a tier list of some of my favorite and least favorite boss fights from the franchise. As you can see here, I've got my own little tier maker that I've made. I'll include a link in the description so that you can rank them yourself. This is, of course, my opinions and my thoughts, and I'd love to see yours shared down in the comments below. Now, granted, the Arkham franchise, the definition of a boss fight is a little cloudy. So, what I considered a boss fight is basically things like, is there a health bar? Is it a big, large encounter with multiple enemies? Is it the conclusion to a main storyline or side quest? Things like that. And so I just thought we'd go through, are they big story moments? Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to have some fun for October because it's spooky season and that reminds me of these games on Batman. And so I think I'm going to go through them in release order, starting with Arkham Asylum, and City, Origins, and Knight. I have not played Blackgate, so none of those boss fights are on here. Maybe I'll check that game out someday in the future. So first off, and I think these are in alphabetical order, not necessarily the order they occur in the games. So we've got Bane from Arkham Asylum, and I think we'll plop that right in the middle for now. It's a pretty standard boss fight, dodge him, and then hit him when he's stunned. Nothing too crazy, but it's fun, and it serves, it is like the first real boss fight of the Arkham franchise. And then there's Killer Croc, where, again, this is where it comes into the not really a boss fight, but more of an encounter, and I like it. It's terrifying. Well, I don't like it, because it's scary. But venturing into Croc's lair, trying to find the antidote to the Titan formula, is definitely something that has stuck with me. Then we've got Ivy's fight, and I'm I go back and forth. I don't really love the Ivy fight. I'm not the biggest fan of the big thing that you just punch or blow up. You've got to wait till she opens up, and then you blow her up, and rinse and repeat over and over. I am just counting all the Scarecrow encounters under one, and I think it's pretty obvious that's S tier. Those are arguably defining moments from the first game. I really love them. Natalie, who's currently playing through the game on this channel, loves them. I put them all because, yes, they are all a little different, but they aren't. I think it's fair to put them all together and rank them as one big boss encounter with Crane. The Arkham Wiki counts the Titan goons from the first game as boss battles, which I guess is fair. They do have health bars. I don't really view them as that, but I did include the 3 major encounters. I didn't include the one in the sewers, just because I think that one's a little lackluster. This one's the final battle, and again, nothing really special. This is the basically test boss fight, the first Titan you fight. I think it's fair to put him down in D because he just doesn't do anything. You don't even have to actually beat him. You just have to outlast him, and then he heals over dead. I actually really like the Botanical Garden fight, though, with the whole finding the Titan Lab and the 2 at the same time, and being able to ride them and smack each other around. And then finally, for Arkham Asylum, we've got Titan Joker, which a lot of people hate on. Is it the best boss fight? No, and it's definitely the weakest in that game. Definitely weaker than Ivy's, but I don't know. Maybe I'll put it here in C for now. Could shift around. Then if we're looking at City, let's see. Let's not throw Clayface right there. At the start, let's start with... I've got Mr. Hammer on here, because, well, he's not a real boss with, like, a health bar. He is the first major story beat where you pause and have to fight him and a bunch of goons. And then I didn't include Sickle, because Sickle is treated as just kind of a regular enemy. I'd probably put Mr. Hammer. I don't know, B, just because of how iconic it is. Like, I can tell you when that fight happens in the game. Let's go over and then Grundy. I know, I grabbed a little awkward image for the way the tier maker cropped it. Grundy is another one where I like Grundy. I'd probably put that in A. I enjoyed the Grundy fight. I know, again, nothing too crazy or game breaking, game defining. And I'm not putting these in any specific order on the tier list right now. Maybe at the end I'll shuffle them around and actually put them in order. Yeah, it's Ra's al Ghul after Grundy, because then he chases him down to Wonder City. Do, do, do. The Ra's fight is interesting. It's that multi-stage where you're constantly having to smash triangle or whatever your top button is, or if you're, I don't know what it is on PC. But to counter and block his blades, plus the giant one that you shoot with the electric thing, um, I'd B. B, it's a fun enough fight. And then after that, we head back to the surface, where we've got, obviously, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone, the Mr. Freeze fight is so good. That was one of my first boss fights I ever encountered, where the boss evolves. You know, every takedown you perform on Freeze, you then cannot perform that takedown on him in the future. So, for example, if you do a glide kick, then he freezes all the gargoyles so you can't get up on them. Or he might make the atmosphere, too cold for your cape to glide. And then leaving Freeze, we head over to Joker's Funhouse. And this one, I almost want to put in S2. I'll put it in A. Maybe I'll put it in, I don't know. It's a fun one where it is just kind of a horde mode. You're trying to fight Joker while also fighting Mr. Hammer and a Titan Goon and a bunch of other guys while dodging the trains. And there's so much going on in that fight. I enjoy it a lot. It keeps players on their toes. I'm going to leave it in A for now. And then, yeah, that's the game. And then we get to the Clayface final fight, which I also want to put in A. You can see my bias for Arkham City is shining through. That maybe these aren't the best boss fights, but I actually really like Clayface with having to throw the grenades while also dodging him. I almost want to put it in S, but I know it's not really an S tier fight. Oh, and then how it just continues to evolve. How you end up down in the Lazarus pit with the sword. It's all just cool. Very cool boss fight. And then I've got here the side quests and DLCs. So when you finish the main campaign, if you have the Catwoman DLC, which I think is basically just part of the base game at this point, I don't think you can get the game that doesn't have Catwoman in it. So this boss fight with Two-Face in the Catwoman section is essentially a stealth segment where you just have to jump him, kind of like the Mr. Freeze version, obviously not as in-depth, where you just have to kind of catch Harvey off guard so many times. It's charming for this first time it's done. Then I've got here like Deadshot. You want to talk about D tier, Deadshot, D for Deadshot. Because there's nothing there. You just have to find all his victims, and then your final boss fight or encounter with him is just hiding until you can get up under him, and then you do a great takedown. And then I did include the Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter final sequence, when you've got the rabbit hat, because that's another one of those horde modes. Nothing special. I put it in C. It's just kind of almost not really a boss fight, but like I said, one of those final encounters where that is the last time you encounter Hatter. And then post main game, we've got 2 encounters with Harley here. Really, I don't know why I put them both on here. I probably could have just put the one. This one here is what I'm calling the encounter with Robin on the docks, where it's the same thing as the Harvey encounter. It's arguably easier maybe than the Harvey encounter because Harley's enemies are so spread out. I almost want to put them both in B because they're pretty much the same fight. Yeah, and then this one here I included, this is your final encounter with Harley in that, where she's just throwing the Wonder Bots at you while she's shooting at you. Kind of similar to the Two-Face, wow. A lot of similarities between the Harley Quinn and Two-Face mechanics, I'm realizing. Yeah, so she's throwing Wonder Bots at you while she's shooting at you. It's fine. It's just a standard encounter. It's gonna go in D. And then these are all the Knight encounters. We're gonna skip over Knight for now and go down to Origins, which is overlooked. I did a video on here where that game's almost a near perfect prequel to the Arkham franchise. I know people have a love-hate relationship with it. I've really grown to love Origins over the years. I'd love for a remaster, a re-release, something to give that game some kind of justice. I also didn't include the Executioner fight on here because it is just a gag fight. There's nothing to it. It would just end up probably in D tier. But let's see. Looking at here, the first fight, Killer Croc. Standard. Put it down and see. There's nothing really to it. Punch and dodge. He's just kind of an intro boss, just someone for you to beat up as a tutorial. But then I think you don't encounter anybody else on here until Deathstroke. And no surprise, Deathstroke, S tier. This fight is so intricate, the way you have to counter him just perfectly at just the right moment, or he ends up hitting you. You know, he's not like the other enemies or bosses where you can just continue to punch. You have to actually, like counter his counters and things like that. And just a fight that evolves and continues to change. He cycles through his weapons, and so then you have to dodge and use your gadgets. And yeah, really fun boss fight. Nothing you probably haven't heard from anybody. These three here are what everybody talks about when you talk about the Arkham franchise. Which I guess it's interesting to see that here there's one from each game that's a standout. And then I want to say, if we're following the story and I remember correctly, then we fight Bane on the rooftop. This Bane fight, a lot better than the Arkham. Well, they're kind of the same, but I like this version of Bane more, so I fully admit my bias is here. He's not crazy and out of control like this version is. He's more in control. And there's actual moves to dodge. You can just straight up counter him. The electric gloves make this fight fun. Versus how this one, you can't do anything. You just have to get out of the way of Bane. Versus here, you can actually counter him and beat down. And then there's Firefly. The whole bridge sequence with Firefly, I go back and forth on, because it does kind of break up the pacing of the game a little bit, but I understand why it's there. I'd probably put it... the sequence itself is cool, and having to go around disarming the bombs before you can actually fight him mano a mano. I'll put it in B, because the glue grenades and then grappling onto him, that kind of stuff is fun. Oh, I might have messed up on the ordering. I think Copperhead is actually... Yeah, Copperhead is before Bane or Firefly, right? Because she's before the Joker reveal. Because you're at Sionis. No, she's after the Joker reveal. Anyways. Copperhead, her fight, she uses a poison, a hallucinogenic poison, and you hallucinate multiple versions of her. It's another fun one. I'm filling up the B tier, which I guess is okay. Really, these tiers don't matter. Ranking things is kind of silly, but at the same time, it's my preference, my favorites. And then we fight Bane in the prison. And it's kind of just a repeat of this fight. Like, these fights are pretty similar. And then we have TN1 Bane, and he's experimenting with his version of Titan / whatever it is. TN1 is what it's called, I assume. If I remember correctly, it's basically a prequel to Titan. This fight is a fun one. It's kind of like the freeze fight, where you have to hide from him and stealth attack him. You can't confront him because he's gotten so big and monstrous. And every time you attack him, then, he smashes the grates, he destroys the security system, jams your comms. I really like the Bane fights in Origins. I just like all three of them. I know they're maybe not as good. I almost want to put this first Bane fight in S tier. I really like it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's my list. I can put it wherever I want. And then the rest of these for Origins are side missions or DLC. Arguably not even boss fights. Like, I have Anarchy here. Anarchy's going to go in... Yeah, Anarchy's going to go down here in D tier, where not really a boss fight. I like the setup of it. I like the story or the narrative, where Anarchy thinks Batman's coming to join him, and actually you're there to shut him down. So then he sicks all his goons on you. And while you're fighting his goons, he's throwing Molotov cocktails at you that you have to dodge. And then eventually he comes down, and he's just a standard stun baton enemy with a health bar. And so yeah, D tier, just because not really a boss fight. But I included it because it's the conclusion of his story. Then we have Deadshot, and this Deadshot fight is again, it's the same thing as these two. It's you have to jump out, attack. You have to hide, stealth, and then jump out and attack Deadshot when he's not looking. Much better. Kind of, it sounds silly because that is what the first one is. But this one, Deadshot's not moving. Deadshot is literally just standing on a grate, looking back and forth. Versus this one here, he's actually moving around. There are other enemies in the room to dodge. Much more fun, much more engaging. And then just because these fights are kind of boring, Shiva, this is her story fight. So yeah, the conclusion of Shiva's story, you meet her up at what is Wonder Tower, and then you just fight her and a bunch of ninjas. And she's like a combination of the Blade, like ninja enemies, and the martial artist, where you have to like double dodge and double counter. And so I do think that's fun, but again, not really boss fight, not the most interesting. I think she's actually more interesting, but still probably D tier. In the Initiation DLC. Only because there's so many more enemies. You're fighting her in like a room filled with 10 or more. I want to say there's more than 10 enemies. Neither fight's really that memorable, though. I think they both go in D. And then to round off Arkham Origins, we have the DLC, A Cold, Cold Heart, which is the origin story of Mr. Freeze. And I like it. This is not the best version. It's kind of just a reskin of his fight in City. Again, you're going around, you have to set traps, blow up walls or drop bicycles on him. And he's preparing and setting mines and things like that so that you can't just easily pass through. So I like it, but it's not as good as the OG fight, and that's why it's in A tier. So yeah. We've got 3 out of 4 games down, and we're in a pretty good distribution right now. It might start to... D might start to get a little bigger, because if you don't know, Arkham Knight doesn't really have boss fights. I'm not sure why, but Rocksteady kind of took a step back on boss fights and went all down on the Bat Tank, the Batmobile. And so, yeah, a lot of these might not even be real boss fights, as you'll see. But I included them, again, as that conclusion to a storyline, or some big fight with multiple enemies. And as you can see, most of them aren't even from the main story. Like, the very first fight in the game is right here. This is the Arkham Knight's drone helicopter that you fight in the Batmobile. Mm, C tier? I mean, I don't know. Eh, yeah, it's definitely C, if not D, because there are more interesting fights. And then during the events of Arkham Knight, we have the three infected Jokers of Johnny Charisma, Christina Hall, and Albert King. Albert's the only one that's given like a health bar, and he's just kind of a beat 'em up. You know, you and Robin team up, and you sit there and do like the beat down technique on him. Uh, there's nothing really special or memorable. Like it's not really a. Yeah, I think it's a D tier because it's a nothing fight. This almost makes me want to move this down to D2. I don't know, but this fight's at least memorable because of the wanky Wonderland shenanigans happening. Christina Hall, I included her. You don't actually fight her directly. You have to stealth take out the room of goons, and then you get up to her, and a cutscene plays. Uh, no, it's still D tier. Johnny Charisma, though, Johnny Charisma can go to C. Johnny Charisma is another stealth fight. You play as Robin while Batman is distracting Johnny, and Johnny is singing. The performance is done by Mark Hamill in the game because you're seeing what Batman is seeing. But yeah, Robin is stealthily disarming bombs and then has to stealth take down him. Again, not really a fight, but it's memorable because the song is fun and cute and I like it. Like it's a neat little thing that when you replay Arkham Knight or playing through the first time, it's a nice little treat. So I'm gonna put it in C tier of not really a fight, but it's fun. Nice little breather. And then man oh man. Yeah, we've got a lot more vehicles here. Let's see. The We've got the Cloudburst tank, which is the Arkham Knight's vehicle he uses after Scarecrow unleashes his gas on the city. This is actually how he's unleashing his gas on the city. So you have to fight the knight inside it. And I kind of like it. It's probably the best fight of the tank fights because there's a stealth element to it. Because the knight's tank, this Cloudburst here, cannot be attacked directly. You have to kind of do a tank stealth takedown on it, which I know sounds silly, but at least makes it more engaging than just the other shoot, bang, boom fights in the game. And then after that, you fight the knight again in his giant drill underground where he destroys the Batmobile. I think I'd put this one in B. It's a fun little chase around. I know a lot of people don't like it because the Batmobile mechanics are a little wonky. And you do have to, like, it's a chase more than a fight. You're not really fighting the drill. You chase him into you make him chase you into a bunch of booby traps. But I think it's fun. It's one of the good examples of the Batmobile in the game. Then there is the fight with the knight himself. After he's revealed who he is. And I would C tier. It's an okay-ish fight. Basically, the knight is moving from gargoyle to gargoyle, and you have to get up to each gargoyle and take him down, from below. And the room's full of enemies, and they're different kinds of enemies from the ones you can't see with your detective vision, and so forth. They place mines, that kind of stuff, drones. But it's a little dissatisfying, especially because the knight throughout the whole game is prompted as like Batman's equal, Batman's rival. He could take on the Bat. And so then his fight is just fight all the other goons and attack him from behind. I would have rather seen a big fight from him. And then let's see. I think story-wise, all we've got left is the Joker hallucination. This is a fun one. This says in Crime Alley, you're hallucinating as Batman and you're just fighting like 50 different Jokers. It's something crazy like that. You rack up the combos. You were just wailing on him. He can't really beat you. Uh, A tier, just because it's fun to beat up a room full of goons like that. And yeah, that's the story. As you can see, not really a lot of boss battles. I guess things are evening out a little more. I don't think anything from Knight is gonna get an S tier, to be honest. Let's see. Looking at some side missions and some DLC. Let's go ahead and put this on here. This is the Deathstroke fight. Now, you might be wondering, looking at this image, that's not Deathstroke. And that's right, the Deathstroke fight in this game is a tank. He's literally just in a like 2.0 version of the Cloudburst tank. And so it is just this fight again, but instead of the Knight taunting you, it's Deathstroke taunting you. It's the same exact fight recycled again. And so for that, I think it just goes. And because Deathstroke, who's up here in S tier for just the game before. Yes, done by a different studio, not done by Rocksteady. But Deathstroke was right here. And then he's a tank. And you don't fight him outside the tank. You blow the tank up and that's it. You get a cutscene. So, yeah, I think. Hoorah. There you go. D tier. And then let's see. Two-Face. Two-Face is just kind of the same mechanic again from City. So, like D tier, C tier. Where, again, you're just hiding from him and then you attack him. Firefly. I might have been harsh on Firefly's appearance in Origins, but his appearance in Knight is just a Batmobile chase. You don't fight him, you just chase him with the Batmobile, and then once you get close enough, / he runs out of fuel, you press the button to jump out and grab him. And so, nothing there. D tier. Again, only there to conclude the story. Professor Pig. Almost want to put him in C tier just for the memorability. Yeah, actually, this fight has a decent mechanic to it. So, Professor Pig is building his Dalatrons, which are like mutilated corpses and things that do his bidding. And his Dalatrons can only be taken down when you do a combo takedown on them or gadgets. You can't just punch them. You have to do something besides pressing square on PlayStation controls. And so that fight's interesting. The fight with Pig himself is, you just have to get close enough and then do an environmental takedown on him. But yeah, the fight with the Dalatrons. I almost want to. No. Because it's not really as memorable as these other fights. So yeah, I think C tier is fair to say. Actually, I'm going to move this down here because this isn't anything special. And then we've got the Riddler. Yeah, let's do the Riddler. In order to get this fight, you do have to find every Riddler trophy in the game. So I've only done this fight one time. Well, two, because when you do New Game Plus, it remembers and you don't have to find them all again. This fight is interesting because you're switching between Batman and Catwoman during it. And yeah, I almost want to put it in A because it's the only boss fight in this game. Like, real big boss fight. Because he's in this giant mech. He's got all his little Riddler bots. And they're color-coded to Batman and Catwoman. So you're constantly having to switch back and forth between the two characters to clear the room and then attack Riddler. Looks like we're in the DLC now. We've got Killer Croc back. He's heavily mutated for story reasons. He's just Albert King again, where you just have to punch him a bunch until he falls over and you win. So it pains me to put him down. I don't know. Because, I think Croc's cool. I think his design is interesting here. But the fight is nothing. It's almost not a fight. Same thing here. This is Nightwing, because you fight him when you play the Harley Quinn DLC. But he's basically just a stun baton enemy like Anarchy in Origins. We just have to dodge his batons and then smack him a bunch. Which is, I get it, because it's a like $5 DLC level. They're not going to put crazy amount of effort into it. But at the same time, for it to be a fight against a member of the Bat family and all he does is swing a baton at you is a little lame. This one here is the Red Hood fight against Black Mask. I want to say D tier just because it's nothing special. Maybe C tier. All it is you as Red Hood punching Black Mask a bunch and shooting him and a bunch of his goons until his health bar runs out. And then I guess last but not least we have could this I think this goes in A. Yeah, this is the Matter of Family fight with Joker and Harley Quinn in the Batgirl DLC, in which, again, it's a fun fight because you're switching, kind of like the Riddler fight. You're switching between Batgirl and Robin to take these two down while also fighting all their goons. It's actually the only time Joker has a health bar in the game, When you fight him here as Batman, he doesn't have a health bar. He's just basically goons that you're knocking down. So yeah, I'd probably put that there. Or at least in A tier. What's it say about the final game that your best fights are one with the car, one where I just get to punch a... this one should probably go down here. The Riddler in a giant mech with color-coded enemies, and then Joker and Harley, where it all began in the first place, in a DLC too. So yeah, if I look at these and if I want to order them, I'd probably say Freeze is first. I almost want to say S tier looks something like that. Like, I fully admit maybe I'm biased. / these three being fights, while Scarecrow is more of an encounter. That being said, the encounter is really good, but these three fights are great. You can't beat these. These right here, what I would I would 100% tell someone if I were to recommend someone. I love all of the games, but I would definitely recommend someone for Asylum, City, and Origin just for these 4 encounters here. If we look at A tier, I don't know if there's really any ranking to it. Probably put Bane fight encounter number 2 there. Clayface here. This is fully my own opinion. I think the Clayface fight is really... No, I don't think it's S tier, though. Clayface might be up top. And really, these two, there's not really much separating them. The only thing with this is that there's a bunch of enemies and things in the way that maybe knock it down from this first fight. / it being a recycled fight, so it's not as fun or interesting as this first encounter with Bane. I would almost move this up here. This one. Maybe this one here. What's it say about me that all my A tier are or at least the middle of my A tier is all sneaky stuff? Sneak, sneak, sneak. I really do like the Predator mechanics in this game. Looking at B tier, let's see here. This probably needs to move down. Definitely above these, at least. I just really like the Bane fights. No, the Origin Bane fights are much better, much more in-depth than the Asylum fight. That being said, it still serves as a good first boss fight of the series. Hammer almost needs to be at the bottom of B tier just because he's really a standard enemy that once you dodge, that's it. Do I want to say the mechanic that, yeah, this is probably the right order for these three stealth ones, because the mechanic loses its charm the more you do it. C tier. Yeah, C tier. This is basically in. This is basically, yeah, this is pretty much in order. This would probably be all the way at the end. This would probably be here. It probably looks something like that. So a little more spread out. Maybe a little more bottom heavy than expected. I don't. Yeah, I think it's pretty evenly distributed. I think this list is fair. And again, it's my opinions, it's my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the Arkham franchise, your favorite boss fights, your least favorite boss fights down in the comments below. If you like what you saw here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when that next one's coming. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.